Hey, so I've been thinking a lot about all the different techniques that you read about, all the things that you read about from Neville, from Joseph Murphy, from reality transurfing, from everybody. And I think that in order to be successful with figuring out how to cause things to happen in your life just using your thought or starting with your thought, I think that you must go back through your entire catalog of achievements or events that have happened or whatever you've done in your life, and you have to figure out how you've personally done it and stop reading. Stop trying to figure out how other people do it, because the further into the study of this that I get, the more I realize that what the vast majority of people do is not what I do. And what I do, I've done naturally my entire life. So for example, I'm doing these affirmations. I've been writing them, which actually it's interesting, when I'm doing affirmations, I'm trying to be aware of what's happening, because, if your subconscious mind can believe something, then so should your conscious mind be able to. And so when I'm doing affirmations, I've mentioned in another video that I've had a very eerie and peculiar experience with almost every affirmation that I've done, which is that I like to do them for 10 minutes at a time, like one specific thought. I will repeat and think about it while I'm doing it for 10 minutes, and then I'll do something else, but I'll go back to that one affirmation multiple times. So I'll do it every day, let's say, but only for 10 minutes for that one thing. And I've noticed that after 3 or 4 days of this, there's a moment that clicks in where I realize that the affirmation is actually true. Whether that is because I have shifted into the reality where it actually is and I can sense it, or whether it is a truth that was always there and I just was blocking my perception of it with my mind, or if those two things are the same thing, I don't know, but I've noticed that it consistently happens for affirmations that I repeat about myself. I've just noticed that I go, oh my God, this is true. This was always true. So that's been really, really weird. But with the affirmations that I'm working on right now, I've been writing them, which makes them feel very real to me. And then I have been repeating them mentally while driving. So I've been taking like an hour or so out of my day, usually in the morning, just to peacefully drive around my town, neighboring towns, while repeating these things for 10 minutes. I've got, I think 4 of them. And, this is not my natural way. My natural way is actually believing consciously and rationally, even something that isn't true in 3D. I still know what the feeling of believing something feels like. And so I try to coerce myself, convince myself into believing things like that. Like with money, this was so easy. I just always believed it was easy. That part was easy. But with other stuff, while I'm driving around doing these affirmations, the purpose of which is to believe that they are true, I have been pausing and saying, kind of having a conversation with myself. In what ways is this already true? Do I really believe this? Do I really believe this is possible? And if the answer is no, I try to figure out why and talk myself out of it. And I've been pretty successful with doing that. The affirmations I'm working on make sense to be true to me. even if I don't have a good reason to believe they are or were actually true before I started this, if that makes sense. And anyway, this I think is where the two camps diverge on whether or not you need to worry at all about yourself, your self-concept, whether you need to fix your beliefs about yourself before you can believe something else and bring it about. And of course, the answer is you don't have to do that with everything. But my assertion is, and maybe I'll change my mind, but I have a lot of experience and evidence. My assertion is that if you have a self-concept that is diametrically opposed to whatever you're trying to convince your subconscious mind of, you can repeat an affirmation, you can loop an emotional scene, you can do everything, and it will never work. That is my conclusion. Because there's a simple function here. All you're trying to do is believe something. That's really it. You're just trying to believe something and bypass your conscious mind to make your subconscious mind believe it and bring it about, since it is stronger. For me, I don't know, perhaps my conscious mind is too much in the way. And so I've just automatically devised a workaround, which is to just convince my conscious mind of whatever, as I was just saying. So for me personally, I've noticed that it's nearly impossible for me to repeat an affirmation and believe it if my feelings about myself are in disarray for some reason, even if it's an unrelated reason. So yesterday morning, I had kind of this heartbroken feeling, and I wasn't quite sure why. There had been a couple things that had sort of upset me, nothing big, nothing major, nothing having to do with me personally. And I had this sort of feeling lingering over me all morning. And so I went out for my drive, and I'm trying to repeat these affirmations. And as I'm doing it, every time I said one, I felt like worse and worse. That heartbreak feeling was intensifying as I was saying these affirmations in my head. And I just stopped, and I was associating that feeling with the affirmations not being true. Like it was like this ball of emotions and stuff. And so I paused and I just said, why don't I believe this is true? Like, what's this feeling? Where's this coming from? And it only took me a few minutes, like always, to take the emotion that seemed to be a reaction to these unrelated little events. And I figured out quickly what the real source was, what the real underlying triggered belief was, that was making me feel that way. It only took me a few minutes. And so I shifted my attention to that particular thing, unraveled it, examined it, looked at why it wasn't true, repeated the opposite of that belief to myself a bunch of times. That feeling dissipated. I returned to a peaceful feeling. I returned to a feeling that, I can believe and create anything. Then I went back to my affirmations, and once again they started to feel true, and blah blah blah. And so I personally, experientially, have a problem with the idea that you can do anything purely reprogramming your subconscious mind. Maybe I'll change my mind after doing this for another 3 weeks. I don't know. But for me, a clean and open feeling about myself and my abilities is kind of a prerequisite for all of this stuff, which is why when I kind of figured out what this all is and that everything is stemming from your beliefs, it basically became my primary mission in life to examine and, stamp out any beliefs that were disempowering me, because they're just beliefs. They're just thoughts that you've thought a whole bunch of times. They're just conclusions that you drew that were incorrect when you weren't conscious enough to know the difference. That's it. Like there's no more meaning to beliefs than that. So I don't know, because I just started doing this in December. I'm 40 years old. I didn't have any problems. I didn't have any impediments in the area of finances and wealth building, despite having all kinds of bad beliefs. It's just that all of my disempowering beliefs were about sort of a certain concentrated area. I didn't have any beliefs about money that would logically, with how I just explained how I do things, prevent me from building wealth and being successful. I didn't feel that I needed to be, I don't feel, if, say, I believe that in order to find the relationship that's just right for me, then I need to be my absolute best physically, and I need to be my absolute best mentally. So I have these beliefs, right, which put an obstacle in the way of getting something that would be just right. I didn't feel that in order to generate a lot of money, I needed to be very different than I was. So it didn't stand in the way. Anyway, a lot more self-work is needed in these other areas for me personally. That is simply my assessment. That's not a belief. That is a observation based on my experience. So if that could or should be changed via brute force affirmation, I'm just not that interested in it, because I guess I'm enjoying the process of getting to the destination. This year has been interesting. A lot of it has been centered around myself and my relationships, and it's been kind of fascinating, especially now that some time's going by. It's been fascinating, the things that happened earlier this year, and this stuff I've mentioned with my ex, where we've taken some time apart, we're talking again, we're friends again, and I think honestly that the 10 days that I spent with very limited contact with him were 10 of the most important days of my life. There were so many fears and there was a boogeyman living with me all the time, and it wasn't until I shined a light on it that I could see that there was nothing there. So I don't know. I'm not sure how else I could have arrived at that conclusion without experiencing things being okay, essentially, without us being in contact 5 times a day. It became very clear to me over that period of time that I was able to handle my own shit. And that's invaluable. If you don't know that about yourself, you will operate from a place of fear in ways you don't even realize. So anyway, that's it for me today. Have a good one.